Hi, I'm John, and welcome to the distillery at Black Fox. From all the distillery's fields and the flowers that we grow outside and the great team that we have, this is the accumulation of all their efforts. Ends up right here where we make our award-winning products that we ship all over the world. What we're trying to do here, as I'm sure Barb tried to talk to you through, is we're trying to take the ingredients that we grow and make something really cool out of them. In Saskatchewan, we grow really, really good grain. And forever, we've just put it into rail cars and we've shipped it away and we haven't captured that value. So there's a whole value added thing. And then if you take that and you talk about craftsmanship and all these people in Saskatchewan that are really good at doing things. So how can you show that off? And this is how we've decided to do it. So what we do here is we take the grain that we grow, we ferment it, and we make whiskey and gin and liqueurs from everything that we grow outside. The process is actually quite simple, except for the fact that things never quite go the way that they're supposed to. So in order to make whiskey has a really interesting history in Canada, and Canadian whiskey was known at one time to be some of the best in the world. So as time went along, those values of craftsmanship kind of got eroded and everybody kind of got into, here we're just going to supply the marketplace with a lot of stuff. And now it's up to us to try and bring it back. So we grow the grain. Like I say, we can grow really good quality grain in Saskatchewan, and we take that and we try and do something special. So how can you take Saskatchewan grain and make it more special than what it is? Well, for us, it's about what you grow. So if you look out on the farm in Saskatchewan, you see a lot of wheat being grown, you see some rye, you see oats, you see all these things. One thing you don't see here is corn. We're not in corn country. So the concept behind making whiskey then is going to be on a grain focus, on a focus on what we can grow here and what we can grow well. So we're using oats, we're using wheat, we're using rye, we're using a grain called triticale. Triticale is a really neat one because it's wheat that's been crossed with rye, so you get rye flavors and you get, for myself working in here, it handles a little bit better, so it's a really nice product to use. We use a little bit of barley, but not very much. There's a couple reasons behind that. One, I don't like growing barley, so that kind of takes the fun out of it. And two, barley is always associated with malt whiskeys coming out of Ireland and Scotland and Japan. And we really wanted to put our stamp as being here. This is what Canadian whiskey is. So Canadian whiskey was always usually associated with a flour mill. So they were either milling wheat or rye, and they were using the middlings off of that. So the byproduct of the flour mill was being used to make whiskey. So that's kind of the concept of what we wanted to do. We say we're really good farmers. We can grow really good grain. The next step is to ferment it. We're really lucky in Canada because we have some of the best yeast companies or biological companies in the world. We get to partner with them. We're using those really good ingredients, tie them to our really good ingredients, and we should be able to make really, really nice products. So we do that. That whole process is called mashing and fermentation. And then distillation is using this wonderful piece of equipment. And then that's where I come in. This is where I kind of take control of the situation. Now I've got Mother Nature has done her thing. She's produced the crop. All the scientists producing the yeast have done their thing. They've given me the yeast to work with. It's up to me as a craftsman to be able to look and say, here, this is what I want to achieve. And that's all about quality here. And I think quality is something that we kind of take for granted because everybody uses it and they use it in a very flip manner and say, oh, well, our stuff is quality. But really what is quality, what does it stand for in any kind of a business? And I think for us, a lot of it is being able to wake up each day and say, we're going to try and do it better. And it's that continuous striving for perfection and knowing that we'll never get there. So it's this lifelong road of learning, of tasting it in this case, of just striving to always be that little bit better, whether it's taking care of the environment or what we're going to do. So today what we're doing, actually, you can see in the stills, we can see some product that's bubbling around in there. It's we're making the precursor of making gin. So this is kind of gin season for us. We've got lots of stuff coming out of the fields that we're going to make gin with. Right now it's cucumber season, so we have to really get in a hurry and do it because we want the fresh cucumbers coming out of the field that we're going to process. So for us, it's a long, involved process. We've been working on making this base spirit probably for the last couple of weeks, and we just ran out 2 days ago. So now we have to quickly make some more before the cucumbers become overripe. So this kind of a business, you have all these variables, and really when you look at it, when you look at your own lives, you have this nice plan all set out that this is going to happen today, and then tomorrow this is going to happen, and then somebody phones you up at 8 o'clock at night and says, oh, sorry, plans have changed, we're going to change something around, and either you can't take your kids to daycare or whatever it is. You have to be able to adapt really quickly. And you have to adapt really quickly and still maintain that focus on doing a good job. So that's what we're doing here. We kind of hustle up. We put in some long days this time of year, just trying to make sure that we keep our eye on the ball. And every day something goes a little bit wrong, but typically we can find a way of correcting that. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the process. Process is really important in a lot of things that we do. The process of distilling, if you've ever gone to a business meeting and your CEO sits down and he says, we're going to distill this down to the bare bones, and he's talking about concentrating something, about really getting rid of all the other stuff that doesn't matter and getting down to what matters. When we call it distiller's beer. So you take your grain, you ferment it, you put it into the still. It's got lots of stuff in it. It's got lots of flavors. It's got lots of bad stuff. It's got good stuff. So what you do when you're distilling is you're heating that up. And because all the different things have different temperatures, you can separate them out. And that's what we're doing. So right now, today, what I want to do is I want to take a lot of flavor out of this. So it's up to me. I'm the individual that decides what I want to do. I'm in control of the situation. So I know I can control the temperature, I can control the flow rates, I can control the temperatures. And this is where the art form of distilling comes in. So I've got all this chemistry happening in the background where I know what's going to happen, but then I have to make the artistic decision on saying, well, this is the kind of flavor I want to end up with it at the end of it. So I've got the still, it's heating up, it's starting to drive all the alcohols and all the different components out of the liquid, and now I've got a vapor. And then I'm going to send it through a whole series of different distillation plates and devices in order to control the flavors of it. And today that's what's happening behind me. It's a nice quiet process. Basically things are boiling and then condensing and reboiling and condensing, and the process goes on. And at the end of the day, I have to make that final decision just like you do with anything else. You have to say, this is good enough or it has to be done again. And that's why there has to be that human involvement all the time. We can have all sorts of computer controls in here, but at the end of the day, if we want to win an award for having a really good gin, this is when it happens. Somebody's making a decision to say, this is how I define craftsmanship. This is how I say this is really good. And then that's a keeper. And if it's not a keeper, I'm afraid that's when we have to do it all over again tomorrow. And in this business, it's not quite that simple, because when you wreck a day's worth of work, it probably takes you about 3 days to fix it. So you have to make your decisions wisely. And I think we have. We've been really lucky since we've started. We've been open here for 5 years now, and we've won awards all over the world, from Hong Kong to London, England, and right here in Canada, on the quality and around the whole concept of what we're trying to do. And that's driving home, bringing our ingredients, bringing a little taste of Saskatchewan or a little taste of Canada into somebody else's home and providing that for the customer. So that's what's really important to us. It's not that we want to do things the hard way, but we do at times want to prove a point. So what we do here is we'd be one of the only distilleries in Canada, like at this scale, that produces absolutely all their raw alcohol. So everything starts with grain, it gets mashed in this container here, so it gets cooked. we convert all the starches into sugars, and we produce our alcohol that way. It's not the easy way to do it, but we feel it's the best way of doing it. One, it lets us be truthful in saying, here, this is what we're trying to do as far as agricultural value adding kind of a thing. So it's always using that green, taking those good ingredients and processing them, not having to go to our customer and try and make excuses on, here, we were going to do it this way, but we compromised our values and we decided that we weren't. So this is kind of what's happening back here, but back here there's another story that happens in our distillery, and that's about how do we handle the environment. Everything that comes out of this room has a way of getting recycled. So the mash, after it gets distilled, gets composted and reused as fertilizer out in the fields. This is all geothermally cooled, so it's a very low energy source that's required for the cooling of the distillery. And then at the end of the day, when we're cleaning everything up, we're using organic cleaning agents so that, again, we can use it all in our compost. So we've got that commitment to being truthful to our customer and trying to make a really good quality product and tying it into the environment. And we bring it all together, and it seems to make that nice, not so much a nice story, but it makes us feel good. And we hope it makes our customers feel good too, because we're really trying to portray that honesty and that sense of community that we're trying to bring everything together.